Gaur Kumar Prabhu, for your blessings. It's such an honor to be included in this beautiful sangha with such exalted devotees. And Nitya Kishori Devi Dasi, my obeisances to you. And seeing some familiar faces, Jitendra Prabhu, Athena, um, and of course Paul. And so nice to meet those of you that I don't know. And just please accept my obeisances, all of you. And it's for my own purification that I have the opportunity to try and serve you all tonight in some small way by sharing the story of how Krishna and Prabhupada and Guru were very merciful on a very lost soul and somehow or other picked me up from the darkness of ignorance into their beautiful service out of their mercy, even though I didn't deserve that. So I just want to just say one short prayer before beginning to share my story with you. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namam Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtatara Shatarine. So Gaur Kumar Prabhu is saying, I'll share my own journey home with you all. But it's the very, Radhanath Swami has his exalted book, The Journey Home. And if any of you haven't read that book, please read that book, because that is the real journey home and the story of a great saint and his journey home. So my journey home cannot compare to that journey home, but my journey home was inspired by his journey home and my humble attempt to follow in his footsteps, Radhanath Swami. So yeah, it's funny because I normally like prepare for when I give classes, but I felt like for this one, gosh, there's really no way to prepare, it's just like my story. But I had written when I was in India some emails, a monthly update to my family and friends every month when I was there. And I kind of went back for a few minutes and was like looking over those emails today. And it really brought back a lot of memories. So I guess it's nice to know that just from my childhood, I was very fortunate to have a really saintly mother it was just Mother's Day on Sunday, and it said that the mother is the first guru. And my mother was definitely that for me. I owe everything to her and love her so much. She is a very, very God conscious lady. She's a Christian lady, a very open minded, non sectarian, practicing, devoted Christian who, from the day I was born, read the Bible to me every night and sang Christian hymns to me, sang me to sleep, singing songs of Jesus, and taught me how to pray and taught me how to love Jesus and taught me how to worship God. And so God was a very big part of my life from a young age. And so I always had a very, very strong concept and faith of God, and a deep connection to prayer, because my mother really emphasized the importance of prayer. And so we would always pray before everything, before eating and before sleeping and before doing anything. And she always said to me that she believed there was many different paths to God. And her sister actually married a Jewish man and converted to become Jewish. And when she did that, my mother told me she is also going to God. So I had that very strong growing up. And I would say in high school is high school in America, and all of the um, that comes with that, you know. And I was very involved in your typical American high school um, situation, and I actually came from a very materially um, wealthy family. I actually had everything that one could want materially speaking. My family was, they're not now, and that's another story, but they were like multimillionaires, and we had a mansion and like the best, I went to like the best private school and was like popular and had a lot of friends and, had a great boyfriend and was a dancer and an actress and like had all these fancy vacations and a loving family and like had kind of the American dream, like what everyone would want, materially speaking. Yet I remember in high school having this like existential angst, actually. I would say actually depression, of feeling like I have all this materially, but something is missing and I'm not satisfied. And my mother and sister suffered from depression. And I remember just feeling like these material things don't bring happiness. And I was actually embarrassed about my wealth, and felt like there's got to be something more to life. And I had certain questions that the Christian tradition, although I love the Christian tradition so deeply, couldn't answer for me. Like, why is one person born in Africa with AIDS and another person born in America to a rich family and healthy? I couldn't understand why these things were there, and I wanted also to know, okay, so I understand that there's like a God, but what is God like? And how can I have a relationship with Him? And why is there suffering in the world? And how to get out of suffering? Um, why is there so much distress? And why do I have everything and don't feel happy? Um, and then after some experiences that really broke my heart, with friends that betrayed my trust, my senior year of high school, I kind of separated from that whole world, and I went to one semester of college, because my parents asked me to, but I really wanted to move to New York to become a dancer and an actress. And I started reading spiritual books, and I was reading all different kinds of spiritual books, from Paulo Coelho to Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, and Deepak Chopra, and just like eh, anything that I could kind of get my hands on. And then I moved to New York, and I went to acting school here in New York City. And while I was in acting school, um, I had a hip injury and had to get a hip surgery. And during my recovery period, I started reading more spiritual books. Like I was rereading the Bible and I was like reading the Kabbalah and like anything I could get my hands on, basically. And started doing these like guided meditations and looking into yoga, to heal my hip, and just was really like, I was in this acting school and everyone wanted to be famous, including myself. And I had this idea of maybe if I'm famous, then I can like become a woman's advocate and like make the world a better place. And but I just saw that it was just all like everyone had such a big ego actually at the acting school. Um, and I just kind of felt like I didn't really fit in or something. And I started as I recovered. I got a job at Lululemon, and I started going to like every single yoga studio that one can go to in New York City, and healed my hip that way through yoga, and every single meditation center, Buddhist center, you name it, church, mosque, whatever. And I found Jivamukti Yoga. And when I went to Jivamukti Yoga, I remember walking in and feeling like I've found my home. And there they did kirtan, and I loved kirtan, and they talked about Krishna. And I was a dancer my whole life, and I remember my first day at Jivamukti, I looked at a picture of Krishna, and it was a picture of the Rasa dance, Krishna dancing with the gopis. And my favorite thing to do growing up was to dance under the stars at night. And when I saw that picture, I thought, "Ah, that is God. God is dancing under the stars. That is the best thing to do in the entire world. If I was God, I would want to be doing that too, dancing under the stars with my friends." And so I just felt like really immediately really attracted to Krishna and to Kirtan, specifically the Hare Krishna mantra and Sita Ram, and Shiva Shambho. I really liked Lord Shiva also. And Gaur Kumar asked how I got a Radha deity. He was interested in that. While I became vegan and I did my yoga teacher training, and I was in the West Village, and I went into this Indian shop, and I asked them if they had a deity of Krishna, and they said they did. And I actually got a deity of Krishna and brought him home and put him on my altar. I can show you guys their darshan actually if you want. And then I just had Krishna. He didn't have a Radha, but I didn't know anything about worshiping deities at the time, so I would just kind of like meditate in front of Krishna. And yeah, it wasn't until later in my story, after I came to Krishna consciousness and came back to America, that I was telling my Shiksha guru, my instructing guru, Rukmini Walker, that he really needed a Radha. And she said, no, he doesn't need a Radha because he's dancing. So she thought maybe he was dancing on Kalia's hoods, which is a pastime in the Krishna book. And I said, no, I really would like him to have a Radha. She said, well, you can start worshiping Radha in your mind. So I started worshiping Radharani in my mind. And then she went to Vrindavan she was only in Vrindavan for 1 day, Rukmini. And I told her, you can't go shopping your 1 day in Vrindavan. You should just stay at Prabhupada's Samadhi and chant 64 rounds. But she went across the street to the shops right across from the temple in Vrindavan, and she picked up Radharani for me and brought Radharani back for me. And then Radharani fit perfectly with my Krishna. And so I named them Radhananda Gopal and have been worshiping them ever since that time. But just to rewind, when I did my yoga teacher training, it just completely changed my life. And I actually started chanting a mantra, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, every day. And at the time, I was really looking for who is my guru. I want to know who is my guru. I felt that I needed to dedicate myself to a path, and that I needed to have a fully enlightened teacher to show the way for me, so that I could become. My goal was to become fully enlightened in this life, and so I was praying like that every single day. I was praying very intensely. I don't know if you all have heard of the book The Artist's Way, but there's this exercise called the morning pages in it. And I was doing the morning pages every day for like about a year. And all of my entries were just like, please, like, send me my guru. And I was very close with my yoga teacher, Lady Ruth from Jivamukti, who's a great saintly person. And I was considering maybe she's my guru, but I felt like, she's very wonderful and she's very advanced, but yeah, I don't feel like sh- she's my guru, like she can like take me all the way. Um, and just about a month after my yoga teacher training, Radhanath Swami was invited to be the guest speaker at a Jivamukti talk. And I had heard about Radhanath Swami. And I remember that day I was with my friends and I said, we can't be late. The Swami is coming to give a talk. We have to get the Swami a flower. We have to go and see the Swami. And I was so excited, like this, just like anticipation, you know? And I remember we went and I had my flower ready to give to him. And he walked in and we all bowed down and he gave a talk. I don't remember what he talked about, but I remember listening to the talk, and then he did a kirtan and taught us the Swami step. And to be honest, I specifically remember not being so impressed with the Swami step because I was a dancer and was used to kind of dancing kind of wildly in kirtans. Because at the yoga studio, we would like, my friends and I would like twirl and do circles and be like jumping all over the place like crazy New York girls. And so I was kind of like, this Swami step is kind of lame. But after the talk, I wanted to like pay my obeisances to him and like thank him for the talk. And so I went up to him and I paid my obeisances and I offered him the flower. And he had some people kind of like sitting around him. So I felt like, well, I haven't read his book, so I shouldn't really, bother him. So I'll just give him the flower and say thank you, and that's it. And he looked into my eyes, and when he looked into my eyes, it was like um, this look of recognition that he knew me and that we had a relationship. And when he looked in my eyes, I felt that this person is a saint. This person is a fully enlightened person. And I had never, even though, my parents love me so much, when he looked in my eyes, I felt like this person loves me more than anyone I've ever met in my entire life. This person loves me unconditionally. And I actually heard a voice in my heart at that moment very loudly say, "This is your guru." And I was like, whoa, oh my God. What? Whoa, I don't know. I don't know. I just met this person. But it was really loud, this voice. So I was like, okay. So I got the journey home, and then I started reading it and I couldn't put it down. I just stayed up the entire night reading it. And I think I read the whole thing in like 2 days or something. And I just kept rereading it and I was like, oh my God. And I don't know if you all have read The Journey Home, but it was specifically the story of when he went to Vrindavan, that touched me. And then specifically the story of Ganesham Baba, who had Radha Gopi Janavallabha in a temple closet, and his story of humility. And when I read that story, I felt like that is the goal of life. That is the real thing. That is devotion to God. I want to follow this path. And I actually told Radhanath Swami one time we were having a lunch with Radhanath Swami in Washington, D.C., and he was actually talking about that story in The Journey Home and that the editors wanted him to take it out of the book because they thought maybe Westerners wouldn't understand it. But then they decided to keep it in and add the whole part about what real humility is. And I said to him, Radhanath Swami, like, that story is the reason why I became a devotee. And he just looked at me and smiled and said, I'm so happy I kept that part in. And it just touched my heart like anything. So I read this and I immediately told all my friends, I'm going to India. And they were like, okay, well, chill out a little bit. Life was great. I was living in Brooklyn with my two best friends. We were all vegan yogi teachers, and like we were teaching yoga, and I was waitressing like at a vegan restaurant, and we had so many friends, and they were all like, yeah, you're like super part of the yoga community. You can't just like leave everything. I was like, no, I need to do my own journey home. Like I need to have this experience. I need to find my path and I need to travel to India and I need to go through the same thing that he went through. Um, so I actually saved up money for almost a year, and planned out a 17-month pilgrimage to India. And I planned my trip in such a way that I would go to different yoga studios and ashrams first to make sure this is not my path, this is not my path, this is not my path before I got to Vrindavan, because I knew that when I got to Vrindavan that I was going to surrender to the path of bhakti. And I didn't really know about ISKCON. Like, I didn't really know about that. I just knew Radhanath Swami. Um, and so I planned like to start in Madurai at the Shivananda ashram and stay there for a month, and then go to Haridwar to spend a month at the Anandamayi Ma ashram in Haridwar. And then I plan to go from there to Mysore to practice Ashtanga yoga at Sri K. Patabi Joyce's school. And then I plan to go to volunteer at Mother Teresa's in Calcutta, um, with like the work she does for the poor. And then I plan to go volunteer at the Bhaktivedanta Hospital in Mumbai, and visit the Chaupati temple. And and then I planned to go to Vrindavan. That was like my plan. And I was in touch with some devotees helping me plan that. And then I gave all my things away to my friends and packed a school size backpack and a yoga mat. And that was my luggage. That is definitely called false renunciation. I do not recommend that you all do that. But Radhanath Swami, he went with no money. I had a bank account. That is the difference between me and Radhanath Swami. Radhanath Swami hitchhiked and had no money. I had a bank account, parents to call if I got in trouble, contacts in each place, plane tickets, and knew where I was going to be staying at each place. So that is the difference. Um, yeah, so I said goodbye to all of my friends, and left. And this was in March 2012. And then I went and I spent my first month in Madurai at the Shivananda Ashram, which was a super beautiful experience. Vivid memories of visiting the temples there in Madurai and being bathed by the priests. And, everything was so magical. Like when I got to India, I remember I had zero culture shock when I got to India. I just landed and I felt immediately like I'm home. This is my home, and it was just this most liberating feeling, like this is the spiritual world, this is India, this is the India that I've been, wanting to go to for so long. And funny, when I came back to America, I had culture shock for a year. I remember being in the airport and being like, what's going on? Why? This is so intense. Um, and while I was at the Shivananda ashram, I was already reading Bhagavad Gita as it is, and they teach Vedanta there. So I was kind of like asking all of these questions, and I was really attracted to Krishna on the altar, and I started having like very vivid dreams of Radhanath Swami every single day. And I would be like meditating on the rock in the Ganges next to Radhanath Swami. And I was just having these like vivid dreams every single day of Radhanath Swami. And it was just becoming really clear to me like he's definitely your guru. And this is definitely your path. But I was like, no, I gotta be sure. I gotta go to these other places. So then after a month at the Shivananda ashram, which like the program there is we would have morning sadhana, and then we would have yoga class, and then we would have seva and classes, and then we would have another yoga class, and then we would have dinner, and then there would be more sadhana and kirtan at the nighttime. I went to Haridwar to stay at Nandamayi Ma's ashram, which actually Radhanath Swami met her in his journey home. And I really loved that temple too. They have this her samadhi there. So the temple is actually her samadhi where she's buried. And they do in the morning, they ring all the bells, and the kirtan is just so, so sweet actually. And everyone there is just into the kirtan. And then basically what people do is they just meditate all day. And so I met these nice people there who I would take my meals with. And then basically all I did was I would go to the Ganges and I would like meditate for like 8 hours a day. Um, and but I just was like I wanted to just like find the ISKCON. And so I somehow or other went one day to try to find the ISKCON, which I don't know if it is still is at the now, maybe it's more developed, but at that time it was this super obscure, they didn't have deities, it was just pictures. It took me like a whole day to find it. I couldn't find it. I was looking everywhere. Finally, I found it. Someone let me in, and this priest kind of sat me down. And the first thing he asked me was like, are you chanting 16 rounds? And I didn't know what that meant. And I knew what a round was because I was chanting rounds, but because I was trained as a yogi, my idea of meditation was inhale, exhale. So I was chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, but I was going inhale Hare, exhale Krishna in my mind. Inhale Hare, exhale Krishna. So I was chanting like that. And so he asked me, how many rounds are you doing? I was like, maybe I'm doing like 3 rounds a day or something like that. And he looked at me, he was like, that's not very good. And I said, well, how long are you people meditating for? Because I'm meditating 8 hours a day. How can you possibly like do more than that? And he just, yeah, he actually didn't explain to me. He left the room and he was like, all right, I don't think he took me very seriously, to be honest. He thought maybe, I don't know what he thought, but he didn't take me very seriously. And he put on the Japa tape of Srila Prabhupada. And I remember being like, oh, that's how you chant. You chant at that pace. Okay, I get it. So I started doing that and I stayed there a few hours and he came back like a few hours later and he goes, it was just me alone in this little like room with these pictures. And he goes, oh, you're still here. And I was like, yeah, I'm still here. You said there was a program tonight. I would like to attend the program. So he started taking me a little bit more seriously. And then I attended the program that night, which was like totally in Hindi, and got some prasadam. And then he invited me to this other like Pundal program where I rode on a motorcycle with this devotee who took me to this program. And then I had halava for the first time and they performed a drama. And I was just so intrigued, like, what is this? This is so far out and amazing. Um, and oh, just one other side point. I actually got distributed a Bhagavad Gita in the Union Square subway in 2008, but only read the first chapter and thought it was a history book, not a spiritual book, because it sets up the battlefield. But I would always look at it like, who is that blue boy on the cover? So book distribution really works. They are time bombs and they purify you to be able to, yeah, then come to the path later on. So yeah, so and then Hardwar, I was like praying to know the devotees, and then I met these devotees, and they were like, "You should just." It was summertime, by the way. Bad idea to go to India for the first time in the summer. Um, and I met these devotees, and they were like, "Well, it's so hot. You should actually go to like Chandragarh. There's a nice temple there." And so I said, "Oh, yeah, that sounds really good. I'll go to Chandragarh. And on the way, I'll go to Ludhiana, which is this small little town of all places, and I'll stay there, and then I'll go to Chandragarh." So I took a train to Ludhiana. So I changed my plans basically. Took a train to Ludhiana, and I actually stayed at the Ludhiana temple for about a week and went to my first Mongol Arti and chanted my first 16 rounds and had a really powerful experience that the first time that I did that, um, of like I was really praying to Krishna in my heart and was praying like really intensely, like, please show me my path. Is this my path? Is this my path? And I actually saw Krishna out of his mercy, like granted me like a vision of like the of him in my heart being like, I'm here in your heart and this is your path. And it was really real and vivid for me. And it just really encouraged me. and then the darshan opened and the deities showed, and I just started crying as the Govindam prayers were playing, and I just knew, like, this is my path, like this is how I'm gonna know God. And the next day was Nirjal Ekadasi, where you fast the whole day. I just drank water, and then the next day they took me to, a devotee's home and fed me way too much. I was coming from a yogi background, like you break a fast with a little fruit, and then they, they like gave me this whole sumptuous feast, and I got really sick after that. And then basically, the temple president was like, you should just go to Vrindavan. So I just got on a train. This was in May. May and June are the two hottest months in Vrindavan. And I just got on a train and went to Vrindavan. And I remember arriving in Vrindavan and just feeling like this is the perfection of my life. Like, I'm here in Vrindavan, and I was just so happy. And I went to the temple for the first time and saw Gornitai and Krishna Balaram and Radha Shamsundar, the deities there, and fell in love. Fell in love. I was always one of the reasons I was so attracted from the beginning was deity worship. I was always very, very attracted to japa, to kirtan, and to deity worship. Those were my first loves. And and my first day in Vrindavan, I got to meet Gopal Krishna Maharaj, who is a guru within ISKCON, and had a really special experience. Somehow or other, like ending up in the kitchen with his disciples, getting to cook for him, and then getting his Mahaprasadam and speaking to him and meeting him. And it was like very, very special. And I just surrendered to Radha Shamsundar, and I somehow or other got to stay with devotees, like right behind the temple. And I ended up staying in Vrindavan for 3 months, and I canceled all of my other plans. And I would go on Purikrama, visiting all the holy places pretty much daily with Dinabandhu Prabhu. And I would make flower garlands and meet the devotees, and made so many wonderful friends, and basically just spent all of my time reading Prabhupada's books. And I would just chant the whole day and just stay in the temple room and go to Prabhupada's house and Prabhupada's samadhi. I would start my day they do this Mangal Arti at 4:10 there in Prabhupada's samadhi. And then they do the regular Mangal Arti in the temple room at 4:30. And I would start my day every day attending the whole morning program. And I actually made a prayer while I was there in Vrindavan, that no matter what happens in my life and wherever you take me in my life, I just pray that I can always attend this morning program. And somehow or other, by Krishna's mercy, so far, Krishna has fulfilled my desire that I always have had a morning program to be able to attend. Um, and yeah, so I would just attend the morning program every day and just basically chant. And my idea actually was that I wanted to live in Vrindavan for the rest of my life. And I, I fell in love with Srila Prabhupada during that time, being in his rooms and his samadhi, and reading the book about him called Prabhupada by Satsvarup Das Goswami. If you haven't read it, highly recommend. And I had so much faith in Radhanath Swami, and took shelter of him within my heart. And I joined ISKCON actually. A lot of people, they first join ISKCON and then find their guru. For me, I joined ISKCON because of Radhanath Swami. And I knew that if Radhanath Swami, if his guru was Srila Prabhupada, and if he had joined ISKCON and committed his life to ISKCON, that I wanted to know Prabhupada and join ISKCON too. And then that's why I I just really developed my relationship. But also just being in Vrindavan and at the temple every day, that just naturally happened to me as well. And yeah, my life plan was I will live in Vrindavan for the rest of my life. That was my goal. I had every intention of, basically, I was kind of in the mood of wanting to be a monk. When some people told me pretty much girls get married, they don't stay monks. I remember crying and being like, no, no, I want to be a monk and just live in Vrindavan the rest of my life. And but then what happened was that I actually got very sick, like very sick. Like I thought I was gonna die sick. And so I ended up having to go to be a patient at the Bhaktivedanta Hospital instead of volunteering there, which was my original plan. And and um, it got so bad to the point where I thought maybe I'm going to die. Um, and so I called my mom and I said, Mom, I think I need to come back to America. I hadn't told her I was sick, even though I had been sick for months. And tried many different treatments that didn't work. And so I came back to America. And my idea was I'm just going to get healthy as soon as possible so I can go back to India and live in India for the rest of my life. And I had signed up for the Mayapur Yatra with Radhanath Swami. And at the hospital, Vishwarup Prabhu, the director of the spiritual care department there, had told me that he could give me a year-round service at the Barsana Eye Camp, which is Radharani's home, and that I could live there for the rest of my life. So my goal was, okay, I'm back in America. I'm just going to get healthy really fast and I'm going to go back to India. And I did like a 30-day juice fast trying to get healthy, and I was seeing so many doctors, but I wasn't getting healthy. And I remember it was like the biggest grief of my life not being able to go back to India. But what happened was I was listening to some lectures of Radhanath Swami, and he wanted to live in India his whole life. And what happened was his visa ran out and he had to come back to America. And when he came back to America, he went to see Srila Prabhupada in New York, and Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture. And if you want to hear him speak about this, if you go to YouTube and you Google Vrindavan Kartik Yatra 2004, Radhanath Swami, there's a whole series of videos. And the last couple of videos are him speaking at Radha Gopi Janavallabha's temple. And he tells his whole story. And he breaks down crying. And he says that when he was listening to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada was saying that we realize Vrindavan through service. And he realized that actually the way he could realize Vrindavan and please Srila Prabhupada was to give up his own um, personal desire to live in Vrindavan and to surrender to Srila Prabhupada in serving his mission and to stay living in America and preach. And well, he became a pujari, but to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission. And so that's how he ended up staying in America. And he actually didn't go back to India for like 18 years. Um, and when I was listening to those lectures, I remember just crying. I just broke down and because the goal of my life was to go back to Vrindavan. And I remember just crying and being like, oh my God, I can realize Vrindavan by surrendering my desire to live in Vrindavan, and Krishna brought me here to America, and I should serve Krishna here by serving the mission. So um, some time passed, and long story, because I want to leave time for questions. But I ended up moving into the Washington, D.C. temple. And I served full time living at the temple for many years, doing all different types of services from being Sankirtan leader, doing book distribution in Harinam, and sharing Krishna consciousness with others at a bhakti lounge that we started, to, like, I started with taking care of Tulsi and doing deity backup services and making jewelry for the deities there, um, and many different services during my time there, and lived in the DC temple until 2017 when I moved to Bhakti Center, and have been living at Bhakti Center trying to serve since that time. So I guess that's my story. Thank you for tolerating me, and listening. um, yeah, talking about yourself is like kind of painful, but it's really a glorification of Krishna. So thank you for allowing me to share. And now, I guess if anyone has any questions, Gorkumar, should you lead the way.
Thank you so much, Champakalatha. That was very, very inspiring. I mean, very touching, actually. I learned so much, and I learned how you started the class also. Started off with like a saintly mother, and then right now, like you've connected with the real mother, Radharani, and it's like amazing journey. Thank you so much for sharing so many wonderful things. I'll just open it up for questions or comments. If anybody wants to unmute, they can and ask any question. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Champak.
Haribo.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. I, I miss seeing everybody at the Bhakti Center, but I especially miss seeing your face. I didn't get to know you so much when I was in New York. I got to know you a little through Andrea and her love for you, but your story is so absolutely beautiful. And I just, it, knowing your story and connecting it to your presence and my memory of your presence is just, it's makes me so happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paul. You all are so beautiful and such an inspiration to me. You're the saintly husband of saintly Andrea.
Hare Krishna Champa.
Athena, Haribo.
Honey, oh my goodness. I have not heard your personal story like that. And I feel like I speak for all when I think you're a gopi in Goloka Vrindavan and you're going to go back to Godhead this lifetime
May your
because,
blessings
you
by
know, when Krishna fulfills all our spiritual desires. He doesn't fulfill all our material desires, but our spiritual desires he does. And you're so sincere and really want to go back to Godhead, serve Krishna. And I feel like just your attraction just to dance and Krishna with the rasa dance and dancing underneath the stars, and just Vrindavan. I'm like, you're for sure a gopi in the spiritual world. And I just wanted to Garkumar Prabhu, before I even touch into your story, and I did have a question. I just have to tell all who don't know Champak, she brings service to like the next level. Really, like waking up so early, 6 days a week for dressing deities, like that is such a high standard. And anytime anyone mentions Champak, they're like, she literally takes like has a high standard for her service, and that always comes up. And I love your dressings. I think they're just so beautiful, so thoughtful, and it's really your bhakti coming through. I look up to you so much, and I just feel like you set the standard so high. And it's not surprising for anyone who has heard this story that you're just so elevated and so spiritual, just giving your background and just being so attracted to Vrindavan and having personal darshan of Krishna in your heart, even for however many seconds. And I mean, that's not given to anyone. So that says a lot about you. I, this touches a bit into obviously my curiosity, but what I truly believe. And it's funny because as Gar Kumar Prabhu had so graciously allowed me to speak last year, but interfaith is a very, very it holds a special place in my heart because of my own personal experiences. How I even came to bhakti, and perhaps Krishna one day will allow me to share, but not now. was through the blessings of a pure devotee, but not within this path. So, like your mother, who said that there are many paths to God, I know that because of my own personal experiences. Um, and I, through your story, it's very clear that you have like when you landed, India just felt like home. So even like in remove any there's I guess if you take it from the karma perspective, they say anytime you go somewhere and it feels like home, you've been there before. So you most likely in your past life, I'm sure you probably know, have been to India. Um, and even your attraction to bhakti in this lifetime, it's probably not your first time walking it. Um, but I was curious, since you grew up in a Christian household with such a saintly mother, um, was did you, how do I phrase this probably, did you not feel connected to the Christian faith, or that you were, but something in your heart said that this wasn't your path? Or was it always, it was there, but it felt more like robotic? I was just curious. Um, not, I don't want to see so blatant like why you didn't take to Christianity, but I mean, again, I would say like so clearly you're attracted to, say, the Vedic culture, and probably blocked it before. But as you grew up, before you found this path, um, did you just know Christianity wasn't for you, or did you convert? Like, can you talk a little bit more about that? As I personally, Christianity is a bona fide path, and you're a very elevated soul, so you were born into a bhakti family. Really, I have a whole theory and collecting my pramana, my evidence for, um, actually Christians are also bhakti yogis. They are. So anyway, so I'd love to hear just about your relationship with Christianity, why it wasn't for you, how you knew maybe it wasn't, or just your relationship with it.
Yeah. Um, Athena, just thank you for your love and your prayers and your blessings. You just see these things in me because this is your vision and because you're an elevated soul yourself. So you're seeing this in me. Um, that's actually the reality of the situation. Anyone who knows Athena, she's a bubble of light and joy and devotion that inspires us all every single day. And your standard of love and compassion and kindness and the way you treat every single person that you interact with is just, I can learn so much from you because it's on a completely different level. And the healing work that you do and the yoga that you do and all of the service that you do, and steadily attending the Srimad Bhagavatam class over Zoom every single morning and every single day, asking tremendously enlightening questions, and your deep, deep, deep thoughtfulness and passion for interfaith work, and just, yeah, just the word that comes to my mind is just kindness and light and joy that you carry within yourself is an example that we can all follow in your footsteps. So really, you see these things in me because they're in you. And same with Paul and Andrea. It's just, you also carry this love and carry this light and carry this kindness. I mean, Andrea talks forever about Paul and just how, like, you're just the best husband in the entire world. So, but yeah, to answer your question, I was very connected with the Christian tradition when I was growing up. My mom thought I was going to be a nun because I was like every single night asking questions about the Bible. And um, yeah, I was very, very, very deeply, I felt very deeply connected to the Christian tradition. And I still do. You know, one of my favorite books is Saint Teresa of Avila's Interior Castle, which is literally, she's a Christian mystic, and it just, it's bhakti. It's bhakti. And I love Richard Rohr. You know, these, and I love Jesus, you know, and consider him a guru. And I love the Bible. And when I go home, this is another story, but my mom is based, she's a Christian, but she's also like a devotee of Krishna. She actually almost took shelter of Radhanaswami. And at one point came to Mangal Arti and chanted 12 rounds. and became vegetarian and cooked food and offered it to me. She was basically like practicing Krishna consciousness for some time. She eventually, after actually getting a divorce from my dad and getting remarried, and just where she was in her life, decided that also for social reasons that she just wanted to stay Christian. Um, but she has read Bhagavad Gita, Lilamrita, The Journey Home, The Journey Within, parts of Srimad Bhagavatam. She's she basically took up the path of Krishna consciousness. My mom um, has stayed with me in the Bhakti Center and gone to the full morning program with me. I mean, she's just totally, um, yeah, loves Krishna and Radhanath Swami and Srila Prabhupada. But yeah, I really identified with the Christian tradition, um, and that lasted with me through high school. But like I said, there was some questions that the Christian tradition couldn't answer for me. And although my mom is super practicing, I did feel like I did still really feel a lot of the times like church felt kind of ritualistic. Um, and I was searching for like something that was all in. I wanted um, to live in a temple, to live in an ashram. And they have, I mean, there's nuns that do that, um, who completely do that. And that's the same thing. But for me, just through my search and meditation and yoga, I just got so attracted to that. I just got so attracted to that tradition. And yeah, it was really because the Christian church couldn't answer all of my questions. Um, and then when I started reading about reincarnation and karma and the soul, um, these things made sense to me. They answered all of my questions. And when I read The Journey Home, I related with his journey of being inspired by all the different traditions, but ultimately finding his path in bhakti yoga. And I felt in my heart like this is my path. And then when I read Srila Prabhupada's books, all of my questions were answered. And I felt that this is the highest truth. This answers all of my questions, and this explains reality in a way that the Christian church couldn't explain for me. Um, and also the path of pure devotional service which there are also Christians who are on the path of pure devotional service, but there's also many Christians, just like there are also in many different traditions, people who are really practicing wanting material things, and the principle of pure devotional service and only wanting love for God and not wanting anything material is what captured my heart of just and also Christian mystics talk about it, but you don't hear every day at church about like praying and pure love of God. And when I read about the spiritual world and when I read the Krishna book, it was just like when I read that book, it was like, yeah, this is God. God is a person, because I had the concept of God being kind of an old man in the sky growing up, and I never really quite got that. And when I heard about Krishna and the relationships that he has with his family members and his friends, and how you can have a relationship with Krishna, and the concept of the material body and the spiritual body and the spiritual world, it just it just all made sense to me. Everything intellectually and philosophically made sense, but to be honest, although everything philosophically and intellectually made sense, it was a matter of the heart. It was a matter of feeling, of feeling that this is my path and this is my teacher, and meeting the devotees. Because yeah, my mom is very saintly, but when I met the devotees, I felt like these people are practicing spiritual life to another level. they're living spiritual life 24 hours a day. You know, their life completely revolves. My mother is very saintly, but you know, I didn't necessarily feel like 24 hours of the day was, you know, completely absorbed in the Lord. And when I met devotees and met their character and just how nice and loving they were, um, I was quite fortunate to meet, you know, people like Rukmini Walker and Yogeshwar Prabhu right off the bat, Gauravani, Raghunath, these types of people. And I just felt like this is the real thing, you know. And then going to Vrindavan and being in the spiritual world and feeling like this is the spiritual world. I had spiritual experiences in this path that I had never had as a Christian.
Thank you so much for such a thorough answer.
But I can share that my my love for Jesus and Christianity has not decreased since coming to this path. It has increased. But so I feel, and I tell people that sometimes when I go on book distribution, people are like, I'm a Christian. I kind of tell them, oh, I'm a Christian too. You know, you can relate with them. But it's also the truth. I still am a Christian, but Krishna has stolen my heart.
Thank you so much, Champakalatha. That was a wonderful answer. I just want to be mindful of your time. Do you have time for like 5 more minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Very quickly, if anybody else has any comments, you can unmute and
Yeah,
share. Yeah, thank you.
yeah, I'll go ahead. Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji. Wonderful journey. Yeah, I mean, very few instances I've seen like this where, such a thirst for knowing God and such love for Vrindavan, uh, you know, and for me, it's like bhakti was given to me on a platter, something like that. I was leading some kind of lifestyle. Devotees came, they took me by hand, and no, this is not it. Your materialistic. This is not materialistic life. Is not all in all. And then but it's very rare to see such a soul who goes out of the way to find God and uh, you know and actually found God. And one thing that I want to take away from this is your love for morning program. I remember in the class that you mentioned that you prayed to Krishna that he should put you in a situation where you can attend the morning program daily. So this is something that has been emphasized a lot, and I am myself not able to practice it. But yeah, that is really wonderful, and the glories of morning program are like endless. It's like the most potent form of bhakti that we can do. So there is no match to it. So yeah, thank you so much for emphasizing that, and yeah, it was really inspiring. I'm very happy to hear this. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your encouragement, Prabhu, and for sharing. Thank you. You know, there was a short periods of time where I wasn't living in the temple, where I was living at my parents' house. And what I would do is I would do you know, a morning program there. So even if you're not living in the temple, you can still do a morning program.
So, Brinda, go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for
Hare
the class.
Krishna.
It was so good. So I was actually just telling Gautama Prabhuji today, like you might not remember, but you're the first devotee I met at Bhakti Center because you're there at the reception. So, and I just entered and you're like full of joy and like a bubble of joy and like a nice shining sunshine. And that time, like I was like, oh my gosh, she's so cool and she's just so happy. And but now I know that where that all is coming from. And also, like Jitendra Prabhuji's mentioned, that sometimes because for us, like for me, like we get bhakti on a platter, which I think he very nicely he put it into words. So for us, it happens some that way, but for you, it must be so difficult. But still, just struggling and going all the way through India. And I don't know, before 10 years or so, it must have been more tough being alone and doing all that on your own. So that's just so inspiring. And I also loved how you told about your mother because, yeah, sometimes we feel like on the surface our moms are from a different faith, but when internally we see they are actually Krishna conscious and they are like more close to Krishna than us, like at least in my case or something. So it's very nice that you sort of re-emphasize that for me and that how from childhood these values they just help us to grow. So thank you for the class and thank you for sharing your struggles with us. Very cool.
Thank you so much, Brenda.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Uh, I am Anirudh. I've come to the Bhakti Center sometimes, and I think the first time I was actually there, I saw you and we made eye contact, and then as soon my eyes drifted towards the cookies in front of you, you saw my eye gaze, and then you were like, okay, you understood what I
The
was
cookies
thinking.
at reception, right? Yeah.
Yes. And then you were very friendly. You were like, it's okay, you can take a couple, three, no problem, as much as you want. So so that was my introduction to you. But I'm absolutely grateful to have a chance to listen to your journey of how you came to bhakti, and I was also absolutely touched by the eagerness that you had to seek the Lord, and gradually coming to bhakti by the association of pure devotees like Radhanath Swami Maharaj, uh, and also, like, I what really struck me was the fact that and also, like, one of your times in Ludhiana, you said that you woke up from Mangal Arti, you went to the deities, and the Lord revealed himself to you. I found that absolutely touching, and the fact that you were just crying, and the eagerness that you had to seek out the Lord is very, very inspiring. I'm also one of the platter boys. um, I was born
I
in
think
born in a
I think
devotee
Krishna,
family, but
he gave you. You all keep saying you all got bhakti on a platter, but for me, I think someone tried to give me bhakti on a platter. I mean, they tried to give me a book, but clearly, like, I needed some kind of more purification. Like, I just didn't take the platter, but you all got the platter and you took the platter. So you guys are actually the most elevated and exalted.
it's really inspiring to hear Mataji. And the fact that you said, when you talked about book distribution, you said books are time bombs, which is absolutely, like, I mean, I could completely relate to how they are. Even many a times I mean, I used to go out as a kid with my dad to distribute books in Walmart. And then, like, I used to be really saddened by how people would completely ignore, and they'd be indifferent. But then I've told this to my dad. I've expressed it to him, and he just smiled and he said, "No, but even if one of them becomes a devotee, it's extremely satisfying to know that we're able to contribute and bring the soul to the Lord." So it's very inspiring, and I had a lot to take away from today's class, Madhuri. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Babaji
Hare Krishna.
and
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, dear Champakalatha. Sorry, I cannot have my video on because I'm
Everyone.
in the bed with my daughter.
Yeah.
um, but really very inspiring story. I really, really looked forward to the to tonight's talk. And what touched me was your love for Radhanath Swami from get go, and how you actually that was your anchor point for every decision that you made in your journey in India, and how that kind of brought you. Of course, you wanted to live and serve in Vrindavan, but yeah, definitely Krishna had a different plan, and I'm so happy that you came back. Otherwise, I would not have known you, as a devotee, like, um, to share so much of love that you have for our Guru Maharaj, and it's really, really wonderful to that you came back to and serve in New York City and not stay in Vrindavan. um, um, I also loved how you loved deity worship, and it shows through every single day. I see the darshan photos of the deities, and it just shows through how you know detail oriented you are. The Radhanath Swami always says the the love is in the details of seva, and as Athena was also saying that you've taken it into the next level. The standard of worship and everything I could clearly see, and I also see that the other people who are dressing the deities also have kind of risen up to a next level also. I think it's probably by your inspiration. I'm pretty sure about that, because it's just amazing to see how it was in like 5 years and 8 years before, and then now and the deity standards have like really gone up. And also, it's just wonderful to see your the Radha deity story. That was also very nice, that you found a matching deity. Of course, if you can send or share pictures with the Gorkumar, and then he can share it to us later, that'll be good. Of your deities. That's
Yeah, I can
the
do
only
that.
request
Yeah.
I have. Thank you so much. It was really, really inspiring and wonderful to have your association tonight. And I hope that you can speak more in this channel future.
I mean, Nitya Kishore, David Desi, you and Gaur Kumar Prabhu are just the most humble, sweet examples of devotees. I just really pray to follow in your footsteps and be like you. Really, you all are just on the complete next level in every single way. And the kind of mother you are and how you care for your daughter is just so inspiring and so beautiful. And Radhanath Swami loves you both so much. You know, I want to get to know you better, Nitya Kishore Devi Dasi, to understand your glories. I have that desire. I would like to get to know you better. And, Gaur Kumar, he, I don't know what time you wake up, Prabhuji, when you come on Fridays, but he comes to the temple at like 3 o'clock in the morning from so far away to chant his round. I don't think he ever sleeps. That's what I was thinking. He's like Prabhupada, he never sleeps. You're just always serving, and your absorption and
You should stop.
everything that you do is just on a completely different level. Um, the
So,
more I learn about the both of you, the more I'm just absolutely floored by what incredible devotees you are.
uh,
This is an honor to be in your presence. So I'm so grateful that I got to come back to meet you all.
thank you, Mataji. I don't deserve any of these words, but I think there are a couple more devotees who want to speak. Vishal Prabhu, he also came to Krishna consciousness through the Journey Home book. You want to try?
Wow, Jai.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Thank you for amazing. What I heard today was just something else, I believe. I feel like it is like Journey Home Part 2 that I was hearing, and it just nourishes my faith and inspires me so much. And I just feel like very grateful to Krishna that I could see you and hear from you, from a devotee like you. So I'm just very grateful. Thank you.
I'm so grateful to meet you, Vishal.
Anyone else? So Shreya is here for the first time. So thank you, Shreya, for joining us. Do you want to say a couple of words? This is her first time here. Please.
Yeah,
Wow, welcome,
thank you
Shreya.
so much for inviting me. This was a really wonderful session. I'm so touched. Like I don't even have proper words to express this. Your story was incredibly inspiring. Thank you so much.
So nice to meet you, Shreya. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for your encouragement.
Karan Prabhu. Yeah.
Hi, Krishna Champakalatha Mataji. Thank you so much
Hi,
for sharing
Vibhu.
your story.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. We hear like so many rash to riches stories, and then we develop so much respect for the person. Similarly, I feel your story is something like that in the spiritual sense, how you discovered bhakti. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your uh, personal experiences. This is one of the things which really inspires me, like listening to other devotees, how they came in bhakti. So I just want to thank you for that and being open and sharing your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karan.
Okay. So, Dhavalji, you're the only one left. If you want to say something, and then we can end. Mataji has to take rest. So.
Yes, I met Mataji during the Bhakti Center classes, not classes, but when I was visiting on every Saturdays. So she used to be there, like, and when I was in the temple room, she used to give me prasadams. Mataji won't remember me, but I remember Mataji, and it was amazing to hear about your journey, how you came into spirituality, and how you joined ISKCON. So it's good to know more. And thank you, Mataji, for being here and inspiring us all. So,
Thank you so much. It's so nice to see you, Prabhu.
On that note, I think we should end now. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Her Grace Champakalatha Mataji ki jai. Thank you
Gautama
so,
Prabhu
so
Nitya
much.
Kishore Devi Dasi ki jai.
I just have a couple of quick announcements. So next Friday, we are all going to Rajdam, not the Vrindavan in India, but Rajdam here in Pennsylvania. So we have 3 more slots open. If anybody wants to join us, please message me separately, and I can add you. Almost 10 spots are taken, so we have 3 more spots left. So if anybody wants to join us, please feel free to message me. So we'll be leaving on Friday, coming back on Sunday. Everything else has been arranged. The rooms are booked, the car rentals are booked, thanks to Karan Prabhu. So also we'll try to do Zoom sessions from there. For some of the classes, we'll have Chaitanya Charan Prabhu and Shamanand Prabhu also speaking if possible. So thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Hari Bol.
Goodbye.